At my sister's birthday party, when I arrived, all the seats were taken. My family humiliated me, saying outsiders should sit on the floor. My mom coldly said, "If you want us to welcome you into our family, then pay the $8,000 bill." Calmly, I placed a folded paper down and left. 30 minutes later, they called in panic. I laughed because the paper I'd left behind was actually their worst nightmare. My name is Alicia Carter, and I'm 27 years old. I'm a nurse living in Austin, Texas. To anyone looking from outside, my life might seem perfectly normal, an independent woman with a stable career. But if they only knew the truth hidden behind my forced smiles and the loneliness behind closed doors, they'd be shocked. For as long as I could remember, I had struggled to gain the respect and acceptance of my own family. My mother, Linda Carter, is 56 years old and a homemaker. But more than that, she's a woman who thrives on making me feel small. My elder sister, Jessica, is even worse. At 31, she's a successful real estate agent, confident, charming to strangers, and cruel to me. Together, they formed a team that seemed dedicated to tearing down any shred of self-esteem I had. My father, Robert, now 58 and a retired military officer, was never the type to get involved in family issues. He always remained indifferent, silent, choosing to ignore the emotional chaos in our house. He thought of himself as neutral, but by never protecting me, he unknowingly allowed Jessica and my mother to grow bolder in their abuse. Jessica's husband, Derek Reynolds, a 34-year-old bank manager, was no better. He seemed pleasant on the surface, but silently supported Jessica in every humiliation she threw my way, never once defending me. It was as though everyone in my family found comfort in belittling me. From an early age, my mother and sister criticized everything I did. They mocked my cooking, laughed at my homemaking skills, and dismissed every accomplishment I ever achieved. When I graduated from nursing school, my mother simply said, "Oh, nurses aren't real doctors," while Jessica joked that maybe now I'd finally learn how to take care of people properly. Over the years, their insults turned into a carefully orchestrated campaign to ruin my reputation among neighbors and friends. Jessica enjoyed spreading lies, telling people how irresponsible and unreliable I was, damaging friendships before they could even form. Every day felt exhausting. My family's toxic words echoed in my ears, making even simple tasks feel impossible. Things finally reached a breaking point on Jessica's 31st birthday. She planned a lavish party at an upscale restaurant in downtown Austin. I was hesitant about attending, knowing I'd likely be the target of their mockery yet again. But Jessica personally called me, insisting sweetly, saying how important it was for me to be there. Against my instincts, I agreed, hoping foolishly that maybe things would be different this time. I chose my best dress, a deep blue gown I had saved for special occasions, and arrived at the restaurant precisely on time. My heart sank the moment I entered the elegant hall. The atmosphere was festive, music and laughter filled the air, and beautifully dressed guests mingled cheerfully. However, I immediately noticed one thing. Every seat was already taken. Confused, I stood awkwardly near the entrance, trying to spot Jessica. Suddenly, I heard her familiar voice behind me, dripping with mockery. "Look who finally made it." "Sorry, Alicia, there seems to be no seat left for outsiders." My face flushed with embarrassment as everyone turned to look. I tried to force a laugh, but my heart raced painfully. My mother approached from behind Jessica, smiling coldly, clearly amused by my discomfort. "Jessica's right, Alicia. Family deserves a place at the table. Outsiders, well, the floor suits them," my mother said loudly, drawing laughter from nearby guests. Humiliation burned through me. My father stood nearby, silent as always, his gaze distant. Derek smirked quietly, clearly entertained by the spectacle. My humiliation seemed to be the main attraction of the evening. Feeling my courage crumble, I forced myself to stay calm and asked softly, "Why did you invite me if this was your plan all along?" Jessica laughed again, louder this time, ensuring everyone heard. "We thought maybe you'd finally want to prove your worth, Alicia," she said. "If you want us to accept you into this family, Then you can start by paying tonight's bill. Just a little token of your sincerity." My mother nodded in agreement, her eyes cold and calculating. "Yes, Alicia. Pay the bill. It's just $8,000. Surely, proving your worth isn't too expensive." My mind spun in disbelief. They had always been cruel, but this was a new low. They wanted me to pay thousands of dollars just to be recognized as family? Anger rose up within me, burning away years of self-doubt and submission. I took a deep breath, suddenly calm. I reached into my purse, pulled out a neatly folded paper, placed it silently on the table in front of them, and looked directly at Jessica. "You'll regret this," I said softly but firmly. Turning around, I walked confidently out of the restaurant, feeling their confused and startled eyes on me as I left. 30 minutes later, as I sat quietly in my car, my phone rang repeatedly. Ignoring the frantic calls, I finally answered after the 6th attempt. Jessica's voice was panicked, completely different from her earlier arrogance. "Alicia, what did you do?" she shouted. In the background, I could hear voices yelling angrily. A calm smile spread across my lips, and I said gently, "Did you finally read that paper I left behind?" "What was it?" Jessica demanded desperately. "It was your arrest warrant," I replied coldly. "You and Mom have gone too far this time." Jessica went silent, and I ended the call. For the first time, I felt powerful. My family had underestimated me, never imagining I could fight back. But their humiliation had sparked something new inside me. I was done being their victim. But this was only the beginning. I wasn't going to stop here. I intended to reclaim my life, dignity, and pride. I would make sure they all understood the pain they had caused, and they would finally pay for their betrayal. Sitting alone in my apartment that night, I replayed the scene at the restaurant over and over in my mind. The humiliation I'd endured for years finally felt like a heavy chain slipping off my shoulders. For the first time, I'd fought back, and it felt both terrifying and exhilarating. I'd always tolerated their abuse, hoping they'd someday recognize my worth, but tonight I had drawn a clear line. My family had pushed me too far, and I couldn't go back. The folded paper I'd left wasn't actually an arrest warrant. Not exactly. It was a carefully prepared legal document detailing evidence of Jessica's shady real estate practices. I'd been quietly gathering information for months, ever since I discovered by accident that my sister had been inflating property values and deceiving her clients to maximize her commissions. I'd never intended to expose her, believing that family loyalty was more important. But after tonight, loyalty had vanished. As I sat quietly on my couch, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother, Linda. My heart sank. Reluctantly, I answered, bracing myself for her fury. "Alicia," she screamed without even saying hello. "What have you done?" "Jessica's in trouble with the restaurant. They called the police. You have to fix this right now." I took a deep breath. "I didn't do anything, Mom. Jessica made her own choices. I simply decided I wasn't going to be humiliated anymore." My mother's voice shook with anger. "Do you realize what you've done to your sister? She could lose her job. People are watching us. We're being humiliated." Suddenly, something snapped inside me. "Now you know how it feels," I replied, my voice steady. "You've both humiliated me for years, laughed at my pain, and ruined friendships before they could even start. What makes you think I owe you any loyalty now?" There was silence on the other end, heavy and tense. Finally, my mother said coldly, "You'll regret this, Alicia. You'll regret turning against family." I ended the call, without another word. She'd said that many times before, but this time it didn't scare me. It only strengthened my resolve to stand up for myself. In the days that followed, the consequences of that night unfolded rapidly. Jessica's employer started an internal investigation into her real estate practices. News traveled fast, and soon Jessica's carefully built professional image started crumbling. Clients she'd misled began openly criticizing her, some even threatening legal action. Her reputation, built meticulously over years, unraveled within a matter of days. My mother was equally frantic. She repeatedly called, leaving angry, threatening voicemails, accusing me of destroying the family. My father, typically passive, tried calling once but gave up quickly. Derek, my brother-in-law, attempted to intervene, but I refused to respond. I wasn't interested in their explanations or apologies. I had finally realized that standing up for myself was more important than keeping toxic relationships alive. Meanwhile, I focused on taking back control of my life. For so long, I'd let their words shape my self-esteem, but now I was determined to rebuild myself. I reached out to some neighbors and old friends who distanced themselves, cautiously explaining the truth. To my surprise, most of them listened, shocked by how deeply my family had manipulated them. One afternoon, my neighbor Emma, a kind woman I'd always liked, came by my apartment. "Alicia," she said gently, "I never imagined your family could treat you so terribly. I believed Jessica and your mom because they always seemed so confident. I'm sorry I never questioned their lies." Her sincere words warmed my heart, and tears filled my eyes. For the first time, I felt seen and understood. Emma's visit encouraged others, and soon neighbors I'd never properly known began reaching out, offering support. Each conversation slowly repaired the damage Jessica and my mother had inflicted upon my reputation. Meanwhile, Jessica's downfall continued. She lost her prestigious real estate job, fired publicly due to her unethical behavior. News quickly spread across social media and local news, and her former clients publicly condemned her dishonesty. Jessica, who once thrived on humiliating others, was now experiencing humiliation firsthand. My mother tried desperately to defend Jessica, but nobody trusted her words anymore. My father remained distant as usual, perhaps realizing too late how much damage his silence had caused. Derek, embarrassed by Jessica's disgrace, began distancing himself, clearly unwilling to face the consequences alongside his wife. Then, unexpectedly, I received another call, this one from Jessica herself. Her voice was shaky, drained of the arrogance that once defined her. "Alicia, please," she begged quietly. "You have to help me. Everything's falling apart. I have nothing left." I paused, hearing desperation in her voice for the first time. Part of me felt sadness, but another part remembered the pain I'd endured. "Jessica," I replied calmly, "you created this mess by mistreating people, especially me. I didn't destroy your life. You destroyed your own. Goodbye." She cried out my name as I hung up, but I didn't waver. Jessica had used and manipulated me for far too long, and I refused to return to being a victim. Still, I knew this wasn't the end yet. My family wouldn't accept defeat so easily. They'd likely retaliate. I prepared myself emotionally, aware that I'd need to stay strong. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt the weight of uncertainty and fear, but also the unfamiliar sensation of liberation. The Alicia who allowed herself to be humiliated was gone. I'd finally found my strength and refused to lose it again. But deep down, I knew the true test still lay ahead. My family was wounded and angry, their pride shattered. They wouldn't simply let me walk away victorious. I needed to be ready, because their next move might be their most ruthless yet. After Jessica's desperate call, my heart raced with anxiety. Deep down, I knew that the silence from my family wouldn't last. I had struck them at their core, humiliating Jessica publicly, exposing my mother's manipulative behavior, and shattering their carefully constructed image. I knew retaliation was inevitable. I just didn't know what form it would take or when it would happen. For the next few weeks, every moment felt tense. Even though my neighbors and some old friends had begun to reconnect and support me, I still jumped every time my phone buzzed or when someone knocked at the door. I was emotionally exhausted but determined to hold my ground. One afternoon, while at work, I received a text message from an unfamiliar number. The words were blunt and chilling. "You'll pay for destroying this family. Watch your back." I knew immediately it was Jessica or my mother. The threat rattled me, but I refused to show fear. I'd come too far to retreat now. Later that evening, when I arrived home, I discovered another disturbing surprise. Someone had vandalized my apartment door, writing "traitor" in large red letters. My heart sank. They were escalating, clearly desperate to break my spirit. My hands shook as I called the police to report it, but I knew there wasn't enough proof to directly accuse my family yet. Still, I refused to be intimidated into silence. Determined to fight back, I decided to publicly share my story on social media. For the first time, I revealed years of emotional abuse, humiliation, and manipulation I'd faced at the hands of my mother and Jessica. I attached screenshots, text messages, and audio clips as evidence of their cruelty. Within hours, my post went viral among friends, colleagues, and strangers alike. Comments flooded in, most offering sympathy, support, and encouragement. I knew my family would see this exposure. And as expected, within hours, my mother called repeatedly. When I finally answered, her voice was frantic and bitter. "Alicia, how could you do this? You've ruined our family's reputation. Delete that immediately." My reply was calm yet firm. "Mom, you've already destroyed our family with your toxic behavior. I simply told the truth. I won't live in your shadow of lies anymore." She screamed something unintelligible before I ended the call. I felt stronger than ever, but deep inside, anxiety lingered. I was openly confronting them now, and that meant things could get worse before they got better. Days later, while working a late shift at the hospital, a co-worker named Sophia approached me nervously. "Alicia, someone came looking for you earlier today," she whispered cautiously. "It was your sister Jessica. She told some of your coworkers terrible things about you. I didn't believe it, of course, but be careful. She's trying to hurt you professionally." My heart sank again. Jessica was desperate, aiming to sabotage my career and undermine my credibility at work. Anger surged through me. I thanked Sophia for the warning, determined not to let Jessica destroy what I'd built for myself. I immediately informed my supervisor, Grace, who listened carefully as I explained everything: my family's emotional abuse, Jessica's professional sabotage attempts, and even the threats I'd received. Grace nodded sympathetically, assuring me of her full support. "We value you here, Alicia," she said firmly. "Your family's toxicity won't change that. We'll handle this together." Her support was comforting, yet I knew I couldn't wait passively. I hired a lawyer to help protect myself professionally and legally, ensuring Jessica couldn't do more harm. My lawyer immediately issued a restraining order against Jessica and my mother, forbidding them from coming near me or interfering in my life. My family reacted with outrage. Derek even called once, his voice hesitant but accusatory. "Alicia, isn't this going too far? Your family. Can't we fix this privately?" I laughed bitterly. "Derek, family doesn't hurt family intentionally. You were part of this, too, silent, supportive of Jessica's cruelty. I'm protecting myself now. It's too late to play the family card." He sighed heavily, sounding genuinely troubled. "I hope you know what you're doing," he muttered before hanging up. His vague warning made me uneasy, but I refused to back down now. Despite my courage, the emotional toll was heavy. I often cried myself to sleep, wishing things were different. Even though standing up for myself felt empowering, the reality of cutting ties with family still hurt deeply. Yet, amidst the turmoil, I discovered unexpected allies. My coworkers at the hospital stood by me openly, defending my reputation and dismissing Jessica's lies. Sophia and Grace, especially, became close friends, offering emotional support whenever doubts crept in. Their kindness and strength encouraged me, helping rebuild my self-esteem piece by piece. One evening, while sitting with Sophia after a shift, my phone lit up again, another unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered, preparing myself emotionally. To my surprise, it wasn't Jessica or my mother. It was a calm, authoritative voice. "Alicia Carter? I'm Detective Ryan Collins from the Austin Police Department. We've received evidence regarding harassment and threats against you. Your sister, Jessica Carter, was brought in for questioning today." I exhaled sharply, emotions swirling. Relief mixed with nervousness filled me. Someone, maybe a neighbor or coworker, had reported my family's harassment to the police without my knowing. "We take threats seriously," Detective Collins continued gently. Your sister denies everything, of course. But we have enough evidence. We'd like you to come in tomorrow to give an official statement. My heart pounded, and tears blurred my vision. After years of pain, humiliation, and fear, justice finally seemed within reach. Yet even as relief filled me, a deeper worry remained. Jessica wouldn't let this go easily. She'd fight fiercely to protect herself, and my mother wouldn't stay silent. I'd shaken their world, and now I had to face the consequences of standing up for myself, no matter how severe. The next morning, as I walked into the police station to meet Detective Collins, anxiety twisted inside my stomach. It felt surreal, almost like stepping into someone else's life. I never imagined that I'd have to involve the police against my own family, but they'd left me no choice. Detective Collins greeted me warmly, sensing my unease. He carefully walked me through the process as I gave my statement, detailing everything: the humiliation, threats, vandalism, and Jessica's attempt to sabotage my career. He listened patiently, occasionally nodding, his expression calm and reassuring. As I finished speaking, he paused briefly and then said, "Alicia, your sister Jessica and mother Linda have crossed serious lines here. With the evidence we've collected, they could face criminal charges. Are you sure you want to proceed?" For a moment, my emotions wavered. Memories flashed vividly in my mind, years of pain, humiliation, and tears. I took a deep breath, strengthening my resolve. "Yes," I said firmly. "They need to understand they can't treat people this way. Not me or anyone else." The next few weeks felt intense and emotionally draining. Jessica and my mother were formally charged, Jessica for harassment, intimidation, and professional fraud, and my mother for aiding and threatening behavior. They hired lawyers immediately, denying every accusation publicly and privately, but the damage to their reputation was irreparable. The news spread quickly around Austin. Jessica's once thriving real estate career completely collapsed. No one trusted her anymore. Her former clients distanced themselves, openly condemning her unethical behavior. Jessica's arrogant pride had turned to desperation as her world crumbled around her. My mother faced similar consequences. Neighbors and former friends, having learned the truth, withdrew their support, leaving Linda socially isolated and disgraced. My father, Robert, feeling immense embarrassment, continued distancing himself further from the mess, finally acknowledging, albeit quietly, how his silence contributed to our broken family. Surprisingly, Derek chose to separate from Jessica amid the chaos, unwilling to endure further humiliation. He reached out to me one last time, apologizing weakly for not intervening earlier. I accepted his apology but remained distant. I was tired of weak apologies from people who had silently watched my suffering for years. Despite the turmoil, something remarkable was happening within me. I began feeling lighter, freer, stronger. Facing my family head-on had forced me to rediscover my worth. Sophia and Grace's friendship blossomed, providing emotional strength I'd never experienced before. Together, we spent weekends exploring Austin, sharing laughter and healing conversations. For the first time, I truly felt like I belonged somewhere, welcomed and appreciated just as I was. Months passed, and the legal battles finally ended. Jessica faced significant fines, community service, and probation. Her dreams of luxury and status were gone, replaced by constant reminders of her downfall. My mother avoided jail time, but was ordered to attend mandatory counseling and perform community service. Both were publicly humiliated, left with nothing but regrets. Eventually, Jessica appeared at my apartment unannounced. Standing on my doorstep, she looked fragile, completely unlike the arrogant sister who once tormented me. Tears filled her eyes and she whispered softly, "I'm sorry, Alicia. I've ruined everything. I never realized how cruel I was until now. Please forgive me." For a moment, I almost felt compassion. But years of suffering and betrayal couldn't vanish with a single apology. Calmly, I replied, "Jessica, I can't forgive you, not yet. Maybe someday, but right now, I'm still healing. You made your choices, and now I'm making mine. Please respect that." Jessica nodded quietly, defeated, turning slowly to leave. As I closed the door, I felt peace. I wasn't cruel. I was honest. Forgiveness might come, but on my terms, when I was truly ready. Time continued to heal my wounds, slowly but surely. My family remained distant, never reaching out again. I heard occasional rumors about them struggling to rebuild their lives, but I no longer cared. My focus shifted entirely toward building a future free from toxic relationships. Looking back now, I realize that their betrayal forced me to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. What began as unbearable humiliation at Jessica's birthday party had transformed into the greatest empowerment of my life. I'd survived their worst and had come out stronger than ever. Today, my life feels completely different. I have genuine friends who value and support me. I've earned respect professionally, and my story inspires others facing similar emotional abuse. I finally understand that family isn't always about blood. It's about those who treat you with love and respect. Despite everything, I hold no bitterness. I've reclaimed my dignity and happiness on my own terms. My family's betrayal led me down a difficult path, but that path brought me freedom and courage I never thought possible. As I close this chapter, I look forward to a future filled with possibilities, unafraid and empowered by all I've overcome. My journey taught me that sometimes the hardest battles we face become our greatest victories.